We now have Justin's reply, and a lot of people are still trying to figure out this 47.1 law. I know you've even looked more into it. It's new, but all of that relevant info that Justin's put out and the evidence and the context and her using sexy, et cetera, all can come to play. I mean, we have now evidence now where Ryan Reynolds is seemingly admits that his 7-year-old daughter was cast as Kid Pool. So here it is, guys.
Poor guy.
Our fight isn't with you.
When I want your opinion, I'll take Wolverine's dick out of your mouth.
That's Kid.
Guiltily, that is my daughter, Inez.
I'm so sorry we have to admit that.
And
saying, suck Wolverine's D off. And then the director's laughing. Yeah, she didn't even really want to do it, and we forced her to do it, and there were 400 versions of it. Many of us are watching that going like, my God, that's horrific. But sexy was the line for Blake.
What if everything you thought you knew about Blake Lively's lawsuit against Justin Baldoni was a lie? The media painted one picture, but the text messages, transcripts, and court filings tell a very different story. In this exclusive exposé, we uncover the shocking truth behind the legal war that is Hollywood insiders whispering. Employment lawyers are now siding with Baldoni, claiming he may actually have the stronger case. And Blake's suspicious absence from set, while she was spotted at 7 Taylor Swift concerts, might just be the damning evidence that flips the entire narrative on its head.
All of that relevant info that Justin's put out and the evidence and the context and her using sexy, et cetera, all can come to play. I mean, we have now evidence now where Ryan Reynolds is seemingly admits that his 7-year-old daughter was cast as Kid Pool, saying, suck Wolverine's D off. And then the director's laughing. Yeah, she didn't even really want to do it, and we forced her to do it, and there were 400 versions of it. Many of us are watching that going like, my God, that's horrific. But sexy was the line for Blake. Can all of that come into play? And do you think?
I don't think it'll come into play at trial. I think there's not enough of a connection between what Blake and Baldoni and Blake were doing. I don't think it's enough of a connection versus what ended up being decided on another film between 2 other people, even though one of them is kind of related. I think the judge will say that's too prejudicial because the reaction you and I hear is that, well, what does that really have to do with what happened between Baldoni and Lively? That's my opinion. Judges are very guarded with regards to things that are too emotional for people to forget what they're really supposed to be concentrating on.
Fair enough. But her saying sexy to Justin earlier, absolutely connected and relatable. Yeah, for sure. Giving that's what's so weird, because even as Dina was saying it, I do feel like a set on a movie is a different employment. It's like, it's a different work. Like, I've been there. I worked on a set of a Playboy TV show as the caterer way back, and it was clear the rules were different on that show than others, right? Because there's people walking around without any clothing and stuff. Like, this industry is different than, say, a bank. So will the judge and jury be able to factor that into this claim?
Yes, if the lawyers bring out that narrative. Also, another thing, and I don't mean to open up this can of worms, but there's a lot of, if things are related to what's called the creative process, for instance, a comedian in a writer's room saying things that are offensive, but it's part of the creative process for the show, that is actually protected speech under the First Amendment, but they haven't even got here.
What if the wholesome family image projected by Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds is nothing more than a calculated smokescreen? Behind the viral Instagram posts, picture-perfect talk show banter, and charming anecdotes about parenting lies a disturbing pattern that Hollywood insiders say reeks of manipulation. According to multiple sources close to various productions, the Lively-Reynolds power couple may be using their children, not as doting parents, but as tactical pawns in a ruthless behind-the-scenes power play. While the world sees homemade cookies and bedtime stories, those who've worked with the couple describe a very different reality, one where their parental status is weaponized to justify erratic scheduling, delayed productions, and even contract renegotiations. One production insider put it bluntly: they've mastered the art of using family obligations as leverage to control their work environments, and they know exactly what they're doing. A particularly damning text exchange between Ryan Reynolds and Justin Baldoni underscores just how strategic these so-called family emergencies might be. When Baldoni reached out with what sources say was a friendly, non-confrontational message, Reynolds responded not with logistics or details, but by immediately bringing up his children's health. At first glance, it seemed innocent. But to seasoned Hollywood insiders, it was clear Reynolds was preemptively positioning himself as the concerned father, setting up a narrative where any pushback could be painted as insensitivity toward a dad in crisis. It's classic manipulation, one producer explained. He wasn't just sharing updates. He was planting a flag, creating a context where he could later justify shifting the schedule on his terms. And those shifts weren't minor. Crew members, many of whom rely on hourly wages, were left scrambling when call times were changed or entire shoot days were canceled at the last minute. Unlike Reynolds and Lively, these workers didn't have personal chefs or nannies on standby. They had bills to pay and kids of their own, but no leverage to push back against the whims of A-listers with media-perfect reputations. The ripple effects grew especially apparent during the chaotic Las Vegas shoot for It Ends With Us. Blake Lively, citing family concerns, reportedly pulled out of several scheduled filming days. But while the crew sat waiting and budgets bled money, Lively was allegedly seen attending leisure events and spending time away from set. Other actors had to shuffle their own family responsibilities just to accommodate her absence, an irony not lost on those impacted. What makes this behavior particularly galling is the couple's access to top-tier childcare and luxury resources. They have every means to manage both family life and work, yet continue to opt for sudden emergencies and schedule overrides. It's not about not having options, said a veteran crew coordinator who's worked with the couple. It's about choosing to use parenthood as a get-out-of-work-free card while the rest of us pick up the slack. Text messages, production notes, and insider testimony now paint a sobering picture. The Reynolds Lively brand of family values may not be as wholesome as it seems. Instead, their image of domestic bliss could be a front, one carefully curated to protect their star power while silently bending the industry to their will.
Pool revelations that sort of confirm his hatred of Dice Pool and everything else. This is the true shocker right here. So here it is, guys.
Poor guy.
Our fight isn't with
Hey,
you.
when I want your opinion, I'll take Wolverine's dick out of your mouth.
That's kid.
Guiltily, that is my daughter,
I'm
Inez.
so sorry we have to admit that.
And
You didn't have to admit it. You didn't have to admit it, for one. You could have just kept that a secret, which I probably would have done, and let that come out if the kid wants to admit it later, right? Like, for one, you didn't have to admit it, but he gleefully is about to admit it, and it's worse.
I am Father of the Year over here for allowing her to say such language, which, to her credit, she really didn't want to say. And then came back later and said, I want to say it now, when I started looking at other people to play
Yeah,
it.
but Ryan,
Some other kid's going to take your part, Inez. You sure you don't want to do Daddy's disgusting line?
to our discredit, we made Nezzy do, I'm not shitting you, 70 to 500 versions of that line.
Yeah, I'm going to pay for that later.
Blake Lively there as Lady.
Yes, you are.
Dude, but Justin Baldoni's the problem. But a well-connected source close to Taylor tells TMZ, Taylor came to Blake's apartment, and at the time, Blake told her to, not knowing anyone else would be there. In other words, Taylor had no idea there'd be a meeting going on. And I wonder if Taylor knows all this editing nonsense of Blake refusing to let Justin make his movie and I'm not going to give you Taylor's song. I'm not going to give you Taylor's song. You mean girl bully. If this is real, Blake Lively, you deserve all of this. This is a reckoning she needs to hear. This isn't bullying. This isn't harassment. This is accountability, girl.
While Blake Lively's sudden family emergencies were already raising eyebrows, her unexplained illnesses during the It Ends With Us production reveal an even more troubling pattern, one that investigators now say could change everything. According to explosive findings from independent investigator Ilrich, Lively wasn't curled up sick in a hotel bed during those critical Las Vegas shooting days. Far from it. She was front and center, dancing in VIP sections at Taylor Swift's Eras tour, radiant, laughing, and very much not under the weather. The damning evidence is impossible to dismiss. On the exact same day she called in too sick to work, Lively was photographed partying at a Swift concert. This wasn't an isolated incident that could be chalked up to bad timing or a quick recovery. Ilrich's investigation uncovered that Lively attended 7 different Taylor Swift concerts during the film's production period. all while the schedule descended into chaos due to her repeated absences from set. For those outside the industry, it's easy to overlook the real cost of a lead actor skipping a scheduled shoot day. But the consequences are massive. Hundreds of crew members, camera operators, lighting technicians, makeup artists, set builders, show up ready to work, only to be sent home because their lead isn't there. These aren't pampered celebrities. These are blue-collar workers who rely on every hour of paid labor to support their families. Every moment Lively spent waving glow sticks instead of filming her scenes cost the production thousands of dollars. Catering contracts couldn't be paused. Equipment rentals still had to be paid. Location permits couldn't be postponed at the last minute. Meanwhile, crew members were left in limbo, many unsure if they'd even be able to cover their bills that week. The financial fallout rippled through every department, compounding with each sick day that turned out to be a party night. What makes this situation even more egregious is the sheer disparity between Lively's claimed condition and her actual behavior. Social media posts show her glowing, energetic, and posing with fans in luxury concert suites on the very day she told producers she was too ill to perform. The contrast is jaw-dropping, and then there's the childcare excuse. According to sources, one justification Blake offered for her Vegas no-shows was the difficulty of arranging care for her children. But with a net worth estimated in the tens of millions, that reasoning doesn't hold up. She has the means to fly in nannies, book family suites, or hire elite professionals to assist on site, options most working parents could only dream of. Instead, she appears to have chosen Taylor Swift over professional responsibility. This behavior, insiders argue, reveals a deeper pattern. It's not just about flaking on a few shoot days. It's about creating a production environment where her personal enjoyment was consistently prioritized over contractual obligations, and where hundreds of others bore the consequences. The timeline doesn't lie. When she was needed on set, she was too sick. When Swift was performing, she was front row. These weren't coincidences or misunderstandings. They were calculated choices, and the people paying for them weren't fellow celebrities, but the everyday workers who make Hollywood run.
Those clips that just really shows the manipulation behind Blake. Not only did she steal this movie from Justin in post, which is clear, and took this rough cut, she went to stream it at this BookCon, and it seems like, judging by this clip, you tell me, even Sony wasn't involved in this. Listen to this.
Brandon hasn't seen it, so we're going to sit through it.
We just manifested that.
But and just know, it's literally, this is not a bit. It's literally not done. So to be honest, what really happened is we were like, we're going to show the movie, and the studio was like, no, you're going to show 20 minutes. So we're like, no, we're going to show the movie. And they're like, it's not done. And I was like, they don't fucking care. Let's just show them the movie.
Because you're going to go again, aren't you? You're going to go watch it in theaters too.
I don't know. Don't you guys care that the movie be finished and that Justin's take be finished? Look at this. Colleen, Brandon, Blake. Where's Justin? Why was Justin not only she's not allowed to be in any of these interviews, but then she's out there stealing hard drives. That's what she did here to go spread the word on this movie.
Twice.
And they were like, it's true. They were like, if everything's not perfect and it's not done, and what if we're going to change things? I was like, these are the people who authored the success of the book. You guys are what matter. And you guys seeing the movie is so important to us. So we're so excited to show you guys.
You brought us so many gifts.
Way to take over, Blake. Literally just took it from him. This movie, this book, you mean, that Justin found first, that Colleen told him to star in, that he oversaw with his production company for all this time, and you just took it over.
Today.
We did. I know. Also, last one, we're going out with a bang. But honestly, you guys, y'all are the only audience in the world that's going to see this cut. It is an early cut.
I'm so fascinated to know which cut this was. Was this Blake's cut? Was anybody in this crowd that saw this cut? Can you please reach out to me, hit me up, or Kim on socials, or you can reach out popcornplanet Gmail. Please don't spam me with other news links. I get plenty of those. But if you're an insider with info, you can hit me up.
Blake Lively's alleged pattern of professional manipulation was only the beginning. Now, she's facing something far more dangerous. Undeniable evidence. The narrative she's carefully constructed around her harassment claims against Justin Baldoni is rapidly crumbling under the weight of new court filings, including a trove of text messages that tell a shockingly different story. According to documents just submitted by Baldoni's legal team, Lively continued to send him warm, even flirtatious messages in the days and hours following the very incidents she now claims were traumatizing. Let's rewind. When Lively accused Baldoni of harassment on set, claiming he crossed serious boundaries during the filming of It Ends With Us, public sentiment initially leaned in her favor. After all, she's a powerful Hollywood figure with a pristine public image, while Baldoni, though respected, was expected to get steamrolled. But instead of backing down, Baldoni is fighting back with precision, and his legal strategy may completely upend the case. At the heart of Baldoni's defense lies a dense archive of text messages that, if verified, deal a brutal blow to Lively's credibility. These aren't messages exchanged months later. These are immediate, real-time conversations in which Lively appears friendly, comfortable, even playful with the man she now labels as her harasser. Legal analysts say this is more than just inconsistency. It could be the linchpin of Baldoni's entire counteroffensive. Employment attorney Ron Zambrano, who's been tracking the lawsuit, points to something even more alarming. He suggests Lively may be exploiting post-Me Too legal protections not to seek justice, but to cover up a behind-the-scenes power grab. She might be regretting a conflict she helped escalate, Zambrano noted. If so, it sets a dangerous precedent for real victims of workplace harassment. But Baldoni's team isn't stopping at text message contradictions. They're invoking a powerful piece of legal ammunition, California Civil Code Section 47.1. Though obscure to the public, this statute could gut Lively's case from the inside out. It states that defamation protections do not apply to individuals who knowingly file false or baseless harassment claims. In short, if Baldoni's lawyers can prove that Lively had no reasonable basis for her allegations, the entire legal shield she's hiding behind vanishes. More provocatively, the court filings suggest Lively didn't act alone. Section 47.1 also refuses protection to defamatory statements made by an accuser's agents or co-conspirators, a not-so-subtle reference to Ryan Reynolds. Baldoni's team hints that Reynolds may have played a behind-the-scenes role in shaping this narrative, especially after early marketing efforts for the film drew criticism. According to this theory, Lively allegedly weaponized the harassment claims to take over creative control, steering edits, messaging, and publicity in her favor. Legal experts are now saying Baldoni's evidence presents a serious challenge to Lively's version of events. Between the timeline of friendly, post-incident texts, corroborating witnesses from the set, and the strategic invocation of 47.1, the case is shifting fast, and it's no longer looking like the slam dunk Lively's team expected.
Dude, but Justin Baldoni's the problem. It's like I can't get over the hypocrisy. How do you react? You have kids. I have kids. Look, sometimes they say a bad word. It is what it is. We laugh. But I would never want my kids to be talking about sucking some C-word of Wolverines in a movie at that age. I do everything I can to protect them from that range of topics because you want to keep their innocence as long as you can, right? Would you let your kid do that?
The more disgusting part of it is because Ryan was not willing to be as fully honest as Sean Levy was, because Ryan goes to her credit. She didn't want to do it, but then he snitches on himself and says, I pretty much told her I'm going to give your role to somebody. She said, Daddy, I'll do it. Then Sean Levy says, oh, to our discredit, we made her rehearse that line 70 to 500 is probably an exaggeration. One time is too much. 70 times is disgusting. And then disgusting. It's disgusting.
The family man facade hiding in plain sight just took a disturbing turn just as Baldwin is fighting back with undeniable evidence. An entirely different scandal surrounding Ryan Reynolds has emerged, one that involves his own child in deeply troubling ways. While Reynolds portrays himself as the ultimate devoted father in interviews and social media posts, his actions behind the scenes tell a completely different story. During the making of Deadpool, Wolverine, Reynolds made a shocking decision that has Parents everywhere questioning his judgment, he cast his own daughter to deliver a sexually explicit line about Wolverine in his R-rated film. What makes this particularly disturbing isn't just the mature content, but Reynolds' behavior during filming. According to the director's own commentary, Reynolds' daughter didn't really want to say the sexually graphic line at all. Any reasonable parent might have respected their child's hesitation and dropped the idea, not Reynolds instead, according to director Sean Levy. They made the child rehearse this vulgar line 70 to 500 times. Levy himself described this practice as disgusting, yet it continued anyway, with Reynolds reportedly gleefully making his reluctant daughter repeat the explicit content over and over. Let that sink in. The same man who cultivates an image as Hollywood's most dedicated family man forced his own child to repeatedly practice saying something sexually inappropriate until they got the take they wanted for an R-rated film most children wouldn't even be allowed to watch. This incident has sparked outrage among child advocates and parents alike, who question what kind of father would put his entertainment career ahead of his child's comfort and well-being. The contradiction is striking. Reynolds carefully crafts his public image around being a protective, loving father, yet behind the camera, he's directing his own child to say lines she's uncomfortable with. What we're witnessing is the real Ryan Reynolds, someone potentially willing to exploit his own children when it serves his professional interests or public image. This aligns perfectly with the manipulative behavior Baldwin's legal team has been highlighting, showing a pattern of putting career advancement above ethical considerations. The hypocrisy becomes even more glaring when you consider how Reynolds has positioned himself in Hollywood. He's carefully built a brand around being the ultimate family guy, the devoted husband to Blake Lively and caring father who puts his children first. His interviews are filled with charming anecdotes about parenthood, and his social media celebrates family values. Yet when the cameras are rolling in his own set, he apparently has no problem directing his daughter to repeat sexually graphic content dozens, perhaps hundreds of times, even when she expressed reluctance. The disconnect between his cultivated image and his actual behavior is staggering. This revelation adds another dimension to the ongoing legal battle with Baldoni. If Reynolds is willing to manipulate his own child for professional gain, what else might he and Lively be capable of in their quest to maintain their A-list status and control over their projects? It suggests a much larger pattern of behavior where image management trumps ethical considerations at every turn. The question now becomes whether Hollywood and the public will continue to accept the carefully constructed facade this Bauer couple has built as more details emerge about their behind-the-scenes behavior, from schedule manipulations tossing their children as both excuses and props. The perfect image they've cultivated is rapidly unraveling.
I have Justin's reply, and a lot of people are still trying to figure out this 47.1 law. I know you've even looked more into it. It's new.
The reaction is because of how detailed Baldoni's lawsuit, with his own versions and the full text message threads and the full transcript of what was going on and these stills. I don't think she has a chance. What was very well argued by Baldoni's attorneys is that there has to be a showing of malice, and that now it's going to go back to her, to Lively. Lively had a reasonable basis for her claim in the first place. That's one. Two, it has to be on the face of his complaint. And what that means is that the judge reading the complaint in this motion has to assume everything that's in it and all those many, many, many pages is true. And then he makes a ruling. So what the judge has to read is go, okay, every single thing, these text messages, these allegations are true. The judge would have to make a determination that somehow she had a good faith, reasonable basis. And I don't think he can do that.
So is Brian's sort of quote legit? Like, do you think this is a massive threat to others? Like, is she trying to play this law, this Me Too law, which we're going to go through more depth, to like actually try and get her way? Do you agree with his urgency?
Yes, I believe she is misusing it, let's call it, in order for a underlying agenda and a fight that she picked that probably she regrets picking.
Behind the glamorous unraveling of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' public image lies something far more deliberate, what insiders now describe as a textbook Hollywood hit job. And the target? Justin Baldoni. Before the bombshell allegations that rocked headlines, Baldoni was rapidly climbing the Hollywood ranks. With critically acclaimed films like 5 Feet Apart and Clouds, he wasn't just a promising director, he was becoming a creative force to watch. But in a town where power is currency and image is everything, his rising star may have painted a target on his back. The timing of Lively's allegations wasn't just suspicious, it was surgical. Just as Baldoni was reportedly in talks for multiple high-profile projects and enjoying peak momentum, the accusations landed. The impact was immediate. What once looked like a banner year for his career spiraled into chaos. Insiders say this wasn't random. It was calculated. By striking at the height of his professional ascension, the allegations dealt maximum reputational damage. It was a strategic dismantling of everything Baldoni had built. At the center of this storm are Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, wielding their Hollywood influence with precision. This wasn't simply a personal dispute, it was a power move. With deep connections spanning agents, studios, and streaming platforms, the couple allegedly did more than just accuse. They triggered a ripple effect. Baldoni, once lauded for his sensitivity and artistic vision, suddenly found himself branded as difficult. Phone calls stopped. Creative meetings vanished. Projects that once seemed inevitable stalled without explanation. Legal analysts like Ron Zambrano point to the volume and structure of evidence provided by Baldoni's team, text messages, emails, and transcripts, as more than compelling. They suggest not just innocence, but an orchestrated character takedown. Even more compelling is the argument that while Lively's statements may enjoy limited legal protection under California law, Reynolds may not be so lucky. Baldoni's legal team is methodically highlighting the actor's alleged behind-the-scenes interference that isn't protected and may carry real legal consequences. Consider the text exchanges between Reynolds and Baldoni, dissected by analysts Andy Signore and Elish. These messages suggest a consistent pattern, Reynolds invoking his children as excuses to reshape production timelines, not out of necessity, but as a method of control. That's not parenting. That's strategic dominance. And when Baldoni didn't comply, he was punished. This goes beyond one man's legal fight. It exposes a deeper rot in Hollywood's hierarchy, where elite stars can quietly end the careers of rising talent who don't obey the rules of power. When Baldoni refused to yield, the retribution was swift and merciless. Years of work vanished overnight. Development deals turned to dust. Actors suddenly became unavailable. And all the while, Lively and Reynolds presented themselves as the wounded party, cloaked in curated vulnerability and social media charm. But Baldoni's latest legal filing cuts through the noise. It paints a stark picture. This wasn't an emotional fallout. It was a tactical strike. A calculated attempt by a powerful couple to erase a threat to their control. It's David versus Goliath, but this time, the weapons are celebrity influence, PR teams, and entertainment lawyers instead of stones and slingshots. And the real question Hollywood must now answer: who's next?